I will say unequivocally that there is nothing that'll call a man forth like being in relationship with the feminine, being in a relationship, however that is, and becoming a father. I think when we enter through these gateways, the way we're called to change and to grow and to evolve is probably can be the single most empowering and challenging times in our lives. And so for me, as I've tried to show up differently in my family's life and for myself, as I've become a householder, as I've become a father, kind of certain truths and patterns have started to show up. One of which is like going back to even like the ancient texts, the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, any of the world religions, we're at any given time going back 10,000 years of modern human civilization. We're just trying to figure out what it is to be human. Religions, you could say religions were created to help us understand how to become human, how to live amongst other humans, how to get the best out of life, how to be kind to ourselves and to others. I feel like we've, for the last 10,000 years, we've been building a field guide for just what it is to be human. couple of kind of common themes I've started to notice, at least on my journey. And I think for me, what I love about this internet age, there are so many humans that feel the call to share what's working for them. You can slip in a puddle and land on, an internet post or a blog post about somebody's hacking a diet that works for them, a breath work that's working for them, a daily practice that's working for them, a morning routine. Moms are sharing, dads are sharing about hacking their way through a busy lifestyle and how they can create nutritious and abundant food for their families. People are sharing fitness routines, how to get out the door every day and get a workout. So I love the fact that we're still sharing what it is to be a successful human. And I think part of that, is going in and kind of clearing out where dysfunction lives inside me and seeing how that informs my greater reality. So I think some of the common themes that you can see, I think even across all religions and especially all kind of social media platforms where people are really sharing what they're stoked about. Going back to the ancient texts, we've just been trying to figure this shit out for 10,000 years, at least modern civilization. Now I'll just say this, I was raised in a Christian community, so Christianity has kind of informed my upbringing. I wasn't raised around a lot of Muslims, so I don't know a lot about the Quran. I wasn't raised, Buddhism, Hinduism. These are things that I've been exposed to just later in my life. So I think while I think all roads can lead to God and lead to spirit, I think for me, Christianity, the lens kind of that I see the world through was informed by being raised in around this world religion. But I think they're all great. People call God by different names: Allah, Yahweh, Spirit, Source. Just like some people call me Dad, some people call me brother, some people call me son, some people call me by my name. I'm still the same person. I think a lot of roads can lead to God. So anyway, going back to the ancient text, right? The 10 Commandments, just a way to try to figure out and share how to be a human. 7 deadly sins, things to stay away from. Oh, those are kind of connected when you're in your lower energy centers. The 7 deadly sins kind of represent kind of a lower vibration when you're in your first 3, your low 3 energy centers. Love thy neighbor, that was something attributed to Christ. That's more kind of getting into that power center of love, right? That's when you start to kind of get into your higher frequencies, right? The higher vibration, the higher energy centers, the heart, the throat, the third eye, right? This love thy neighbor kind of puts you in more in your power position because it's a much higher vibration than fear. It seems like these common themes we're only ever really coming from a place of love or fear. Fear can kind of be described as separation, love of feeling connected or having connection. So you think about if Jesus was a real person, if he actually existed, how would he have spoken about Pontius Pilate, who I think was the governor at the time? King Herod was potentially a ruler in Galilee. Tiberius, I think, was the Roman emperor. How would he have spoken about them? Would he So if you see like today, like our current, CEOs of companies that are poisoning the planet and taking resources at an alarming rate, political leaders that are invading countries over natural resources, and putting, sons and daughters at risk on the front line, like would think back to like, what would Jesus do? Would he have met that level of fear and greed with anger, violence, resentment, or would he have met it with that higher vibration of love and forgiveness? You think about the quote from Einstein: a problem can't be solved at the level of consciousness that created it. So a problem of a low vibrational energy, would need to be countered by a high vibrational energy. You think of low vibration, you think of low frequency, low, I guess this is frequency, this is amplitude, right? Versus high frequency, high amplitude. I think Jesus would have spoken of Pontius Pilate, King Herod, Tiberius, from a loving place of connection, forgiveness, empathy, understanding. Similar, oddly enough, to when we start to do our work, right? When we start to do our shadow work, when men start to go towards men's work, therapy, 12-step, ayahuasca, plant medicine, whatever. It's healing that little boy inside us. Anytime anybody's doing any sort of healing work, it's healing the little person inside them, that younger version of themselves. Turns out it's the same way for us to go in and do that. It's from a place of compassion and love. It's from a place of understanding and forgiving. Similar to, say, if a kid's on the playground and he wets his pants, it's going to be that grandma teacher who comes out with her shawl and kind of wraps him up so he doesn't get embarrassed. It's when she comes with that overwhelming amount of that grandma love, and she can get him into the office, call the parents, get a change of clothes, because he's going to be in a place of fear. He doesn't want to be made fun of. He doesn't want to be seen for wetting his pants on the playground. It's that same way that we'll approach that kid who's in pain, right? It's the same way that we'll approach that part of us that we're trying to heal. And I think the transition for men when we become householders, we become fathers, now we go from this kind of self-centered life, this individual, almost like a separation, to then we've got people that we care for, that care for us. We have these responsibilities. This opportunity and this gateway that men go through is a way for us to then kind of heal that part of ourself that causes whatever dysfunction. A lot of men, nowadays we tend to lean on substance, right? It's drink, it's smoke, it's maybe prescription or illicit drugs, it's the video games, it's the spectator sports, it's the hours of screen time, or we're the workaholic, or we spend way too much time exercising to the point where it's kind of detrimental to either our physical health or our relationships. And so these kind of lower, when we delve into like these kind of repetitive or avoidant behaviors, some call them addictions, people say that the opposite of addiction is connection. So when we're coming from this place, it's the counter vibration. It's meeting it from a different level of consciousness. I think Tesla even said something similar, but I know Einstein said it. You can't solve a problem at the level of consciousness that created it. So what's interesting, many different cultures have a term for the same energy, like the Holy Spirit, the prana, the chi. When we can start to heal our dysfunction and we can start to let that Holy Spirit, that prana, kundalini, that chi rise, we can start to get out of those lower vibrations of separation, of fear, of anger, and start to move into our higher octaves, right? The higher vibrations of, remember, love thy neighbor as thyself, right? I think that quote, potentially attributed to somebody who potentially existed, he's a great example of what we can achieve in this lifetime. I would imagine his verbiage towards those rulers, especially those persecuting him, he would have still stayed in that higher vibration of love, right? He would have still met, they're persecuting him, they're going to kill him for what he's doing, for the consciousness that he's raising and the awareness that he's sharing. He's going to meet their energy from a place of love, empathy, forgiveness. And I think when we start to when we start, this kind of the law of vibration, when we start to take to social media, when we start to express love and empathy for those that we think are creating atrocities towards the planet, towards others, operating from a place of greed and fear, that's when we flip the script. We're not going to meet, the opposition, those in power that are ruining the planet. We're not going to meet that at the same level of consciousness, at that same vibration of fear, anger, rage, right? It's going to be when we start to meet those who are creating a world or perpetuating a world we don't want or we don't choose. It's when we start to meet them at a higher level of consciousness, at a higher vibration. And I think it's really interesting that the gateway that we walk through when we become fathers and householders is a great invitation for us to start to clear out wherever dysfunction lives within us. And so I think a lot of people are building and contributing to the field guide of what it is to be a human. I just happen to call the part that I want to do the field guide for the masculine. So you're probably finding this on the website called theheroesjourney.co. And I'm building because I want to contribute to how we continue to learn how to be humans, right? We've been trying to figure this shit out for millennia, right? The 10 Commandments supposedly came a long time ago. We learned about the 7 deadly sins, same time. We're still trying to figure out what it is to be human. And I think when we can recognize when people are coming from a place of separation, that it's meeting them with that higher energy. I think addiction therapists are starting to figure this out. I think people that are treating PTSD are recognizing we've got to meet it with a different level of consciousness. And I think for a lot of men going on a healing journey, when we become, it's like we get to heal that little boy inside us when we have children, because we get to recognize, oh, wait a minute, there was something I was missing. There was something that I didn't get, and I have a story that informs part of my reality. I think normalizing this wound, having a conversation on the world stage, not denigrating and demonizing and villainizing the CEO whose company is poisoning the planet and stripping trees, the megalomaniacal dictator that's genocidal or homicidal or nuclear. I think to be able to normalize, oh, wait a minute, this guy needs to do his work. This guy maybe doesn't need to be in power. He just needs to go back and do his work. That grandma just needs to that tribe needs to wrap their shawl around him and say, hey, man, we've all been there. I know where you're at. There's a way. There's a way through. But I know where you're at. We all have that. We all have that tendency, right? We can all live here in those lower energy centers. And I think it's not meeting that energy from a place of separation and say, hey, wait a minute. We're connected. We're all one. Like, come on back to the tribe. Like, sit, have some tea, maybe have some plant medicine. And I think that that could be a potential way through, just as it is with how we heal ourselves, how we engage with our children. When we want to build resilient children, it's from that place of that higher vibration and acceptance and empathy and love and understanding.